So thanks for coming. And today we are going to be talking about the buyer-seller presentation. So we were having a conversation earlier today, and the conversation was about working with buyers, and then working with sellers, and working with the other, and then obviously needing to improve on both those aspects of our game, if you will, of our business. So today we're going to talk about both. However, full disclosure, 70% of today's content is going to be on the seller side. Because what we learned from the listing presentation and working with sellers, we can easily transition a lot of that to the buyer side as well. So you'll see that both things will intermix and intertwine. And on the buyer side, we will talk about how best to present your value-added proposition and make sure that you do get that chance to work that buyer and hopefully get that BRA, of course. So first of all, how long does it take to formulate a first impression? Do we know?
6 seconds.
How long?
6 seconds.
6 seconds? Is that what you said? You're close. 7. Yeah, 7 seconds. It takes about 7 seconds to formulate a first impression. Now, the reason why I say this is because obviously what we want to do is we want to make sure that that impression that we create is good enough that that person is going to want to continue a conversation with us. What's really important here is the conversation. If you meet somebody and they turn around and say, well, I've got to go over there, that's not a good first impression. There's no conversation happening. Right? So really what we want to do is we want to put our best foot forward and make sure that the person who we're speaking to understands what we do, our value-added proposition, and of course we want to make sure that they carry on the conversation that they'll want to work with us. So you all know who I am, so I'm not going to go through this again, but all this to say I'm one of you, and that I do give a lot of advice, or suggestions, if you will. And if for whatever reason you like what I say in this presentation, by all means, adopt it. If not, just ignore me, because I get ignored all the time, so I won't take it personally. All right. So again, we'll talk about first impressions. On the seller side, we'll talk about tools available to you. Objection handling is a big one. So we're going to talk about how you can prepare yourself when you get those questions about, like what? What questions do we typically get when we're working with the seller? How much do you charge?
When do they want to move?
Yes. How much? What's your commission? Sorry.
When do they want to move?
When do they want to move? Yeah. So we're going to talk about those things, and then of course we will once again talk the buyer presentation, why it's important for us to again take some of what we learned from the seller side and apply it to the buyer side as well. So on the seller side, the first thing I want to do is I want to bring up 3 things, and these 3 things or these 3 questions are going to be the cornerstone of this particular presentation on the seller side. So first of all, what does it mean to get a listing? So I'm asking you right now, when you get a listing, what does that mean to you? What does it mean?
Money.
Income, that's right. So it means income. That's exactly what I'm talking about here. What is the value of a listing? So in terms of money, you get a listing. In today's market, what's your average commission for a listing? Pardon me, not percentage, dollar value.
Oh no.
Yeah. 15 or 20,000? 50 or $20,000, right? Let's take it on the low end. Let's say 15,000. And what are you prepared to actually do to secure a listing? So this is really what we're going to talk about in detail. What are you actually prepared to do? But let's go back to the value of a listing. The value of a listing really isn't $15,000. The value of a listing is that times 3. Because really what you're looking for is the residual benefits. So what I want you to keep in mind today is when you get a listing, sure, that one listing is $15,000 on the low end of what we suggested. But the truth is, when you put your sign up there, when you advertise, when you start to host open houses, or when you start to host agent caravans and things like that, when you put the property up on the internet, and you send out all the flyers advertising the property, your goal is to get residual benefits. So the idea is you should try to get 3 in the same neighborhood. That's what you should be shooting for. Now, if you don't get 3, but you get 2, you still got more than $15,000. You got $30,000 now. If you got 3, it's $45,000. So the value of a listing is really that listing times whatever you feel you're going to get from residual benefits. But let's take that on the other side. What if you lose the listing? What if you don't get it? Did you lose $15,000?
No.
You lost about 45, right?
No.
Pardon me? No, well, you can look at it that way, but the truth is, not getting the listing is also the same as getting the listing, but on the opposite end of the spectrum. Getting the listing means the listing value times 3. Not getting the listing means losing the listing value times 3, because you're not going to get any residual benefits from not getting the listing. So ask yourself, now that you know this, what are you really prepared to do to secure a listing? So a lot of us will say, well, I can do this, that, and the other, but keep in mind everyone else is doing the exact same thing you're doing. How do you be different? Is really what we're going to try and do today and answer today. So, you receive an email. Let's role play this out. You receive an email to present a CMA later this week. Prep your initial call. So, what questions are you going to ask? We all know a lot of these questions already. We're going to ask about the property, of course. We're going to ask about upgrades. We're going to ask the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, any renovations. The big four is obviously the roof, the windows, your HVAC, and your foundation. So those are the big four. You're going to ask things like, why are you selling? Right? And of course, I'm not going to go through all of these, but just a couple here. If I present you with all that meets your needs, will you be ready to sign that night? Who asks that question? I ask it all the time. And of course, the question is, will you be interviewing other real estate professionals? Does anyone ask that question?
I do.
You do? Yeah, I do all the time, because I want to know where I fit in. Who likes to be first in? So just me? All right. Who likes to be last in? Who just doesn't care? Okay. Who's never going to answer my questions when I ask? Okay. It doesn't matter where you want to fit in based on your strategy and what you feel you're capable of in terms of your presentation. Whatever's working for you, that's totally fine. Like I said, I like to be first in. People like to be last in. People just don't care. That's up to you. Now, the other question I want you to consider asking, if you get this email or you get a phone call, is ask, how did you come to hear of me? A lot of people don't ask this question. They just get so excited about getting this phone call that they fail to ask, well, how'd you hear about it? This is important because when we teach the business planning course, there's a page in that booklet that says, where did your business come from? And you need to put check marks around what worked for you. So if you don't know what's working for you, you don't know where to keep spending your money. So if they say, I saw your bus shelter ad at the corner of here and here, or here and there, then you, okay, that worked. If they say, I saw your internet ad, if they say, I saw your sign on this street, if they say that, you know, I heard your radio commercial or your TV ad, you need to understand how people are getting your name and number. Because if it's working, keep spending the money on that particular medium. And then what you do at the end of the year is you do an inventory of where your marketing worked. So don't forget to ask that question. And of course, will all the title holders be present? This is a really important question. If all the title holders are not there, will you still go? I'm asking legitimately here. I mean, because some people will say one thing and some people say the other. So if all the title holders are not there, will you still go to this listing presentation? Yeah. If you don't care about presenting it twice, that's up to you, right? Understand the importance of the title holder, though. I'll give you an example of this. I'm a title holder, but my opinion doesn't matter, okay? So as long as my wife's there, you can go and see my wife, right? List my house, that's totally fine. I'll sign whatever. But my opinion doesn't matter. So again, you can ask those questions based on how well you know these people. But if they're just new, and you've never met them before, you make the decision as to whether or not you're going to go. The only issue is you've got to present it twice now. Because you presented it once to the first title holder, you may have to present it again to the second title holder. Now, moving on, here's what you're going to do to be a little bit different. Okay? Because what we tend to do is we tend to get this email or get this phone call, and immediately what we're going to do is we're going to start presenting a CMA. Or not presenting, we're going to start working on a CMA. The CMA is what everybody's going to do. So if they're going to interview 3 or 4 other real estate professionals, all 4 of you or 5 of you, depending, are going to bring a CMA. how are you setting yourself apart? How are you setting yourself apart to make sure that you get this listing? And again, it's all part of that impression that you're going to set. Pardon me. So one, how are you going to set yourself apart? Send them an email to confirm the appointment, or better still, send them a video. Now, I know that we've taught video in this class about 1.5 years ago. We can do it again. It's been updated just a little bit. But send them a video for maximum effect. Instead of an email or a text confirming the appointment, send them a video. And I'm going to show you what that video looks like in a second. Now, let them know that you're having a pre-listing package sent. You don't have to, at this point, do a pre-listing package. Has anyone ever tried a pre-listing package? Has anyone ever used one? You have? Great. Who's ever thought about it and wanted to try it and use it? No one else? Okay. You have? But you've never used it yet, right? Okay. I would suggest you try, because a pre-listing package can get the ball moving, and it can set you up for pure efficiency, so that when you meet them, you're not there for 2 hours. You've set up your professionalism, you've got the pre-listing package with a lot of content in it already, and when you actually meet them, that meeting is going to be far more valuable, and it's going to be more efficient. Okay? So I'll show you what you're going to set up in your or how you set up the pre-listing package. The pre-listing package you can have delivered, or you can hand deliver. You can have it hand delivered, or you can have it couriered, or you can drop it off. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second. You're going to now provide a link to your testimonial page and a seller's pre-screen questionnaire. Now, excuse me 1 second, sorry. Here we go. Now, here, what you're going to do is you're going to prep this, because you're going to want to make sure that you either email this or send it as part of your pre-listing package. And then the pre-screen seller's questionnaire, this is something you can tell them on your phone call when you have that initial call with them. Check with your website provider and see whether or not you can add something like this to your website. So I get asked all the time, John, how do I drive people to my website? Well, here's one way you can do this. Send people, buyers or sellers, to your website and tell them, when you get to my website, on the far right at the top, there's a link that says questionnaire. Click on that, and there's going to be a seller version and a buyer version. Click on the seller version, and then just fill in that questionnaire. It's only 5 or 6 questions. It'll take no time, but it'll help us in our meeting. That's a good way for you to send people to your website. But there's other ways you can do this. Set up YouTube links from your website. Post other topics that are not real estate related, but that's a whole other presentation. Now, I told you that there's a video that you can send. Here's what the video looks like. This is BombBomb. BombBomb, you have a discount being a RE/MAX agent. It's all in Launchpad, so you can click on it, get more information. But what I've done here is, in BombBomb, you can set up this thumbnail. It says, "Hi, Bob." So when Bob sees this, he knows it's directed to him. So when he plays it, it's something like this. I actually hope the volume's okay.
Hey Bob, how are you? John here from RE/MAX Integra. Just want to say thanks for allowing me to come over to present my listing presentation. I'm really looking forward to meeting you and selling your property and moving you on to that next step in your life. Now, based on our conversation, there's just a few things I need you to get ready before I get over there tomorrow at 7. One, like we talked about, I need you to have your property taxes ready to go on the kitchen table, as well as your most recent utility bills and your survey, if you still have it, along with an extra set of keys. And by the way, let me know how you take your coffee. I'll bring that along tomorrow. Take care.
36 seconds. It's really simple. In the video class I told you when we taught it, the easiest way to create any video is just answer the who, what, where, when, why, and how. That's it. That's your structure. That's a 36-second video just answering those questions. But I also set this video up for engagement, for a response. How did I do that? I asked the question, how do you like this? How does he like his coffee? So now he's forced to reply to me. Whether he replies in video or replies in an email, that's totally up to him. But at least I've got his engagement. So that's setting yourself up for, again, being different than your competitors. Now the pre-listing package, like I said, I think this is a great tool. If you've never used this before and you want to change up your business a little bit, this is what you're going to include in your pre-listing package. But keep in mind, this isn't definitive. If you have other suggestions, then please speak up and let's all learn from each other. But the pre-listing package is going to be a cover letter describing yourself, your brokerage, and the RE/MAX brand. Now, you're about me, okay? is in your website. So does anyone have a website? You have a website? You got one? Your About Me, you have a website? Yeah, you do? In your About Me section, that is a lot of that is canned from the developer, from the website post. And all they do is they change your name out. But they use the same About Me for everybody else. If you've written your own About Me, that's great. But there's a really good chance your About Me is wrong. Okay? So what I want you to do, because this is very important, is homework number 1. I need you to Google how to write a proper About Me page and put that up on your website. Because the truth about the About Me is really not about you. It's about why people would want to work with you. So that's really what it is. So Google that, make those changes in your website. But you also want to make sure you put this in your pre-listing package. It's a summary. It's basically your About Me. Okay. Now, you're going to include sample documents and contracts. We're all part of TRED, right? So Stratus has, well, the Stratus system has the plain language forms. So take some of those documents, the listing agreement, the working with a realtor, even the agreement of purchase and sale, and print out those plain language versions and include it. The plain language, if you don't know, has the actual contract, but above each section in red is a 2-line summary of what the pre-printed clauses mean. So if the people you're working with are the type of people who need to understand what they're signing, then this is a really good way for you to get them prepped for that. Now, again, you already checked the forms explained. And then the sales process flow chart. What to expect. These people may never have sold a home before. This could be their original home that they've lived in for 25 or 30 years. So now they're selling. Or they may have sold property in another area of the country, so someplace else, or overseas, or maybe again they haven't sold a property in 25 or 30 years. So this is really important that they understand the process of what's about to happen. So I'm going to show you an example of the flow chart in 1 second, but I want to continue on with what's inside the pre-listing package. Here you've got, again, your testimonials written, then put them in the actual package itself. If it's a video, give them a link to your website. Or if there's a direct link, then have a custom link that you can create in Mac Center. I've shown you all how to do that with the rev.ax URL shortener, and then put that link in your pre-listing package as well. The custom link is really easy. It could be as easy as rev.ax/John's testimonials, period. That's it. Okay. Now, the importance of pricing correctly, you're going to include a paragraph or 2 about why this is important, because it sets the tone for how you work. And again, should the conversations come up about overpricing, underpricing, setting the tone for multiple offers, etc., you want to make sure they're prepared for that. A home questionnaire, a seller's action plan. I'm going to show you what that looks like in Launchpad. There's a screen with it and why that's important. And then include in your pre-listing package just some marketing examples. Not all of your marketing examples, just some of what it is you've done, because you're going to bring more when you meet the clients at their home for the face-to-face listing presentation. So here is the seller's action plan that I spoke of. This is in Launchpad. I love this tool because it sets the tone for your professionalism. Include this in your pre-listing package. What I would suggest is you say to them, you're not going to be able to fill in everything. This is only 3 of 6 pages. But what you don't get to complete, we will take care of when I meet you at the home before we sign the contracts. Okay? But we want to make sure we start the process right. Okay? So this again is a great tool. It's called Seller's Action Plan. Include it in your pre-listing package. Or if you want, again, if you don't use a pre-listing package, you can email it to them. You can print it. You can again deliver it to them. This tool can be used in a number of different ways. That Seller's Action Plan that I told you about looks like this. This is really simple. This was done in PowerPoint. Are you all familiar with PowerPoint? It's just adding shapes and inserting text, and then changing the background color. Very, very simple. It starts with decide to call a RE/MAX agent. That's you. And it ends with moving day keys given to the buyers. And everything in between. And it really sets a good tone for conversation. Because they may say to you, now I'm going to give you a lot of my experiences, which I'm sure a lot of you have had as well. Do we have to do open houses, John? Who's ever gotten that question? Yeah. So how do you answer it? I say, yeah, I'd love to do open houses because you really market your property and then see what they say. Well, is it important? Well, again, I think so, but why don't you want to do an open house? Well, because it's only the neighbors that come and look at the house, and I really don't want my neighbors coming to see the house. Say, well, great, you know what, let's alleviate that right up front. Let's just do a neighbors-only open house right at the beginning. So we're going to list your property on Wednesday, but because it's going to list on Wednesday, on Thursday night, let's just host a neighbors-only open house. I'll flyer the neighborhood. Does that sound fair? This way, the actual open houses on the weekend will be legitimate people coming in. Again, these are conversations you can have. That's just one conversation. Now, again, they're going to actually ask you about other things, need lawyers to sign documents, complete the paperwork. This is a really good conversation starter, and it shows them that you're professional. There's two versions of this. This is a really good, clean version, and you can add graphics to this if you want. It's very basic. But I also want to show you another version. There's something called PictoChart. This is the same as this. The only difference is this is a little bit more graphically intensive. You don't have to do this, but depending on who it is you're working with, they may be impressed with one or the other. Now, in your conversations, the thing is, before you go to meet them, you likely will have the initial conversation and probably one other conversation to just fill in some blanks with questions that you still might have. So as you're having these conversations, you can probably get a good gauge of who this type of what this type of person is all about. Are they technically advanced? Are they not? Are they more basic? In my personal opinion, you use whatever it is you can explain that someone's going to understand. Does that make sense? Great. Now, once you have all the contents of your pre-listing package ready to go, you're going to put it into an envelope. Am I right? And then you deliver it or you send it. A lot of people do this. They put it into this envelope. I'm begging you, do not use this envelope. Okay? Don't put it into a manila envelope, white, brown, yellow, whatever. Don't do this. Because this looks like you're serving someone a subpoena to go to court. This is not really something someone wants to open up. But this is, sorry, here we go. This is something someone wants to open up. This is very cheap to do. This is just getting brown paper at Michael's or at the dollar store and then buying string at the dollar store. But this looks like a gift. So I told you before that you want to set yourself apart. A lot of people who do pre-listing packages will do this, you're doing this. Now, if you're going to hand deliver this, perfect. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'd like to hand deliver my pre-listing package to you because I want to make sure you get it. I don't want to leave it on your stoop, but I'd like to make sure you get it. Now, I'm only there to deliver it to you. I'm going to be in the neighborhood between 2 and 3, Thursday or Friday. Is that a good time for you? When you deliver the package, there's a few things you can do if you want. If you set the tone for, well, you know what, since I'm going to be there, can I take a minute, literally just 1 minute, because I do have an appointment afterwards, to just walk around the home to confirm my CMA. If you want to walk the house, you walk the house really quick, then you leave. This is not a time for you to sit there and have a conversation with them about everything else, because you're probably not prepared. Okay? You're only prepared to walk the house and confirm that the basement really is professionally finished. Okay? Because they'll say professionally finished and it's not professionally finished. And you want to just hand this over. That's all you want to do. Now, if you're so confident that your CMA is going to be okay, just deliver it and walk away. Just say, here you go, I will see you tomorrow night or the next night, and then you walk away. I don't want you leaving this though, especially if you take one of these Remax stickers, see that? And you put it on the package. If you have a Remax sticker and you put it on the package right in the corner there, and someone from a competing brokerage comes and sees that, they'll probably take it away because they're probably jealous. Now, I'm giving you everything that's ever happened to me. I just want you to know, and again, I don't know if you know this, but there are a couple of our peers who are not very ethical. I don't want to break it to you that way, but there's a couple, not a lot, but a couple. And you don't want to leave something so valuable out there where they see that it's a Remax listing package and take it away. Now, you can courier it, you can hand deliver it, okay, it's totally up to you. If I were to leave it there, I wouldn't put anything that marks it as Remax. I just leave it like with their name, address, and then just leave it inside the store. Yeah?
You put that in the box because it's paper, right? In the folder. So you just
always put it in a box. I put it in something that's a little bit more sturdy. So sometimes what I'll do, you know those folders? So again, just being honest with you, you know those folders that are kind of a heavy plastic? It's like a folder, it's like a heavy plastic folder. Yeah, that's right. So it's like a lawyer's folder or a medical folder. I'll put it into that with the string that wraps around, but it's a heavier version of just a paper envelope. So anything heavy, I can put it in. Now, I have used boxes, but the truth is, I don't use boxes that I have for Christmas. So if I don't have any more, I'm not going to go out and buy a box, right? So as long as it's something that's heavy, then I can wrap it up. Yeah.
They say we deliver this and then we sort out, we go to the house.
Yeah.
The seller will ask us questions. There's bound to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Brush them off until we can get another mill.
Well, like I said, I set the tone by saying I can come in, I'd love to be able to just walk around the house really quick, but I do have an appointment afterwards that I have to get to, so I won't take a lot of your valuable time either. So does that sound fair to you? I can give it to you and I can take a quick walk around the house. That's how I set the tone for leaving. Now, when they start asking me questions, I'll say, you know what, those are all good questions which are either going to be addressed as part of the pre-listing package, or when we meet, I can get into more detail with you that way. But, you know, thanks for letting me drop this off. I'm glad I walked around the house. I can be more accurate in my listing presentation. I'll see you in a couple of days. Okay? But again, those are all things that have been rehearsed. Good questions. Now, so now that you've sent this, or you've delivered it, and they've got it, what should you actually bring? So like I said, you want to be different. So what you're going to do is you, of course, bring your CMA. Has anybody here ever been second or third or fourth into a listing presentation and asked to see what the other people have left behind? I do it all the time. If I can't be first in, if I'm second in or third in, I'll say, hey, you know what? I understand that other people have come before me. It would be really interesting for me to see what they've left, just as a comparison. Would you mind if you showed me what they've left? What's the best thing that can happen? No, the best thing that can happen. They'll say, yeah, sure, here, right? The worst thing that can happen is they say no. So what? You asked. But a lot of people say, yeah, sure, have a look. So here's what I've seen. What I've seen is MLS listings stacked, stapled at the top left corner with highlights and the adjustments put on the actual MLS listing. And then the very last one will be a suggested price. Has anyone ever done that? So am I the only one being honest? No one's ever done that. So you've all had a more professional listing presentation, which is great. Don't do that, all right? I've seen it well, my last deal was about 3 years ago, and I've still seen it up until 3 years ago. Here's what I'd like for you to all have. A professionally bound binder or book that looks like this. Printed, please, in color, okay? You've got to be able to print in color. If you can't print in color, please reevaluate the type of business that you're in, okay? Now, you're going to have a number of things in this book, because keep in mind, this is going to set you apart from everybody else. This machine that binds this book, you've all seen this before, am I right? How much would you say that machine cost? $120. Okay, so do you buy one? Do you have one? I was teaching this class in Ottawa, and this guy was on Amazon, and he said, John, it's $70 on Amazon. If this were $150, I would still buy it. I'm just being honest with you. At $200, I would still buy it, because you get your money back once you get your listing, once people see how professional you are. But you can get it for $70. $120, that's cheaper still. Please, if you don't have one in the office, buy one for yourself, right? But this is totally worth it, because you can even put your open house material down like this. Print it yourself. You don't have to get your printers to do this for you. This package of the binding itself and then the cover, you can buy stacks of them on Amazon for cheap. But this is totally worth it. But you're going to include a thank you letter for allowing you to come and present your presentation. Again, you're going to include your about me, how you work. Again, you're going to talk about your brokerage. You're going to talk about the RE/MAX brand as a whole. Within your listing presentation, I've shown you the infographics that you can get in resources that highlight the value of the RE/MAX brand in Canada and in the world, because we are a global brand. Now, you're going to include stats and numbers. What does DOM stand for? Days on market. What does MOI stand for? month of inventory mean? Does anyone know? Does anyone talk about months of inventory in their listing presentations? If you don't, it's a must. And I'll tell you why. Your competitors aren't talking about it because they don't know what it is. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is right now. Month of inventory is, let's move forward in July. Let's assume it's July 15th. This is a really easy way to explain months of inventory. Mid-month. From the July 15th, if no new listings came up after July 15th, how long would it take to sell all that existing inventory? That's what months of inventory means. So, what is the months of inventory for all property types right now in our area, where we are right now? Do you know?
It was 3 months earlier than I was.
Okay. It's just under 3, so 2.678, somewhere in there. You guys should all know this. Because this will help you when they start saying things like, oh, my house is worth way more than that. When you start learning months of inventory, that will help defend your suggested list price. And again, no one is explaining this when they're in their listing presentations, but now you will. Days on market, of course, everybody knows that. Listing to sales ratio, obviously the general number, which is what is produced in TREB, if I'm not mistaken, or CREA. But all of these, you're going to have two versions of them. You're going to have the industry standard numbers, and you're going to have your own personal numbers. So your personal numbers could be different than the industry standard. Where the industry standard for months of so days on market could be 21 days. You could be 10, right? Which is great for you. Now, month of inventory is a little bit more difficult to create a personal stat for, so you don't have to. But listing to sales ratio, you definitely have one for yourself as well, because your listing to sales ratio can be different than the industry standard. And if it's better, put it in there. But you're going to have two stats: the industry standards where applicable, and of course your individual stats where applicable, and how it compares to the industry standards. Vendor partners, stagers, photographers, carpenters, you're going to have that in there as well. That's going to be important for later when we talk about your actual meeting. But the people that you know who are contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, handymen, mortgage brokers, lawyers, all of those people you're going to have in a page ready to go with their contact info. On the next page, you're going to have a list of questions of what to ask those people. Is anybody here fairly new, like fresh off the course? No? You're all fairly. Are you fresh off the course? How long have you been licensed?
I didn't immediately practice after I came out from the office. So,
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you a question. When did you take the courses?
I finished last year.
Oh, last year. Okay, that's all I need to know. When they were teaching you the courses, did they talk about how you recommend an inspector and how you recommend a lender? Did they tell you still, because this was, for me, it was like 11, 12 years ago. No, yeah, 13 years ago. They said you recommend 3.
Yeah.
Did they still tell you that?
Yeah.
They still? Okay. They say recommend 3 and let them call 3. That's what they say in the course, right? But they never tell us or guide us to guiding our clients what questions to ask those people, right? So you say, here's 3 names of lenders, call them and see who you want to work with. Well, what the hell are they going to do in terms of asking questions? They don't know. So on the next page, and I can email this to you, I've got a list of questions that I included in my presentation. I said, if you ever need to call any of these people, go to page 8, or whatever page you want to put it on, and there's some questions you can ask. So you're guiding them, and what does this show? Empathy. It shows that you know how to care for a client. Okay? So you're giving them real direction. The sales process flowchart, which we talked about, your pricing strategy, 3 options. Again, price high, price low, price just right. And again, not just why you need to price it this way, but you're going to include now in your listing presentation its impact on credibility. If you price high, what does that do to the credibility of you, the house, and the seller, right? More importantly, the property. So you want to explain impact on credibility. Your marketing plan is going to be included here, and of course, the CMA, which everybody's going to produce. Now, this looks like a lot of work. Full disclosure, it's a lot of work for the first time you do it. But once it's done, you set it up once. And then you just keep printing it out for every listing presentation you go to, because the whole whack of it doesn't change. The only thing that changes is days on market, months of inventory, listing sales ratio, which you're going to have to discover when you do every CMA for every property anyway. But the rest of this you can just print out, and then just once you have your CMA, put all of it together into this book. That's it. Now, do you remember the listing presentation I've shown you in Launchpad? I use the same listing presentation, but what I do is I PDF all of my CMA, and I insert it right in the middle. I think I've mentioned that. And all of that goes into this book. So the thing I like about that listing presentation is it already prints in portrait. It doesn't print landscape. I don't know, I'm sure a number of you still use landscape. I don't know why. You can help me understand that. But I like the portrait because it fits in this book. You find it, right? So, this is what you're going to include, but you're going to be bringing some additional material. Again, blank listing agreements, blank listing documents, the offer documents, again, those are blank. Marketing examples of the flyers that you've done. So you included some of your marketing examples in your pre-listing package, but now you're going to include more here. Charity brochures if you're involved in CMN or any other charity that you're passionate about. Obviously your laptop, your tablet. Now, here, I get this question a lot. John, do you do digital listing presentations? I always have one ready, and I have my iPad with me, or my Mac with me, but a number of my listing presentations, as a matter of fact, all of my listing presentations, have always been with the hard copy, with the book. I don't mind how you do your listing presentation. Really, you're the one who knows how you do your listing presentation and what you're most effective with. My struggle with the tablet or the iPad is sometimes I have to go back. I gotta flip. If my listing presentation is about 30 pages, but again, it's 30 pages. About 8 of those pages are the CMA. So again, it's really not that long. But if I'm at 30, I gotta flip back, or for me, I don't have any control. If you have better control, keep doing it. But I like the fact I like to just be able to go flip to this page. There you go, right? So this is all you. However, you are successful in presenting a presentation. But of course, all the stuff that you bring, marketing swag, calendars, pens, things like that. Okay? So this again is some additional material you're going to bring. Additional material continued. Again, what I want you to really focus on is the marketing that you do for a listing. So I showed you all how to create a website in Design Center. So I'm going to pick on Amy. I always pick on Amy because it's right at you. If I'm listing Amy's house, I have to go to her house and do a listing presentation. I'm also bringing a website that I've created already in Design Center. Now, I told you, I think in the last presentation I was here, if you're not comfortable bringing Amy a full-fledged website that's already up and running, it's rem.ax/coming soon 2020 Abbott Avenue, then tell Amy that you have a website ready to go. Help me create the URL. So now I can present Amy with several URLs that she can choose from. Still showing Amy that I've got a custom URL a custom website ready to go. But if there's a coming soon video that I've recorded right in front of Amy's house, just before I knock on her door. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. A just listed flyer that I created in Design Center, I'm presenting that to Amy as well. Look at Amy, I've already got the just listed flyer ready to go. And again, a video tour of the neighborhood. If Amy's lived at that house for 25 or 30 years, there's a reason why she lived there for 25 or 30 years. Because she likes the neighborhood. Who here would live in a neighborhood that they don't like? It just doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm prepared to now show Amy a video tour of the neighborhood that I'm going to present, or post, on my social media. So my question again, if you remember the first 3 questions, the last one is, what are you prepared to do to get a listing? Knowing now that a listing isn't just one commission, it's times 3. Are you prepared to do all this stuff? Because you know what? When I start actively trading again, and there might be an opportunity for me to do that, I'm your competition. So if you now know that I'm doing all this for Amy just to try and get a listing, this is who you're competing with. I'll be honest with you right now. I don't sell $4 or $5 million homes. That's not my market. My market is the average property type of all homes in the GTA. Is that you? Because if that's you, that's me. So if I go in first, this is the reason why I like to go in first. Do you think Amy's pleasantly surprised with what actually, let me show you everything I've done first. Here's the website, Amy. So up here are links to all the school districts, the bus transit route in the neighborhood, some rec centers, etc. So I've populated links and plus my own website. Here, Amy, is the coming soon that I've created for you. This is ready to go. I put this on my social media and it's locked, so nobody can see it. But if you sign my exclusive listing, because I know we've got to paint and fix the plumbing, but sign my exclusive listing today and I'll release it before I even leave the kitchen table. Same with the website. The website's on my social media, but it's just locked to me. Let me know, sign the exclusive, and I'll post that right now as well. But here's the video I created that's in front of your house. Because again, I'm really excited, Amy, about listing your property.
Hey guys, John here from Integra. Standing in front of 123 Main Street. It's coming soon. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. Parking downstairs. It's got a bike locker. It's got a regular locker. It's got schools at a walking distance from where I'm standing right now. It's got a community center, which again is just behind the building. Tennis court back there, virtual golf, bowling alley, you name it, the building's got it. Looking forward to representing it. Once again, 123 Main Street coming soon. Reach out to me, jmac@remaxterra.com, or give me a shout, 416-555-1111. Really excited about this one, guys. One last, take care.
Notice I put this on my social media. This is my Facebook. But Amy, it's locked. So the only person who can see it is me. But once you sign the exclusive, before I leave this kitchen table, again, I'll open that up so everybody can see it. So once again, I've got all this stuff ready to go. This is all part of my listing presentation. I don't just have a document that talks about days on market, months of inventory. Although I know how to talk about all those things, I'm showing Amy what I've done ahead of time. Who would be comfortable enough to do this? So, now moving on, let's talk about the meetings. Does anyone have any questions about what we've talked about earlier? And by the way, just so you know, we have a design center class now, Eliza. So if you want us to come in and just teach design center, it's fully interactive. So the new course catalog has this. But I've talked a lot about design center in the past with you all. This class is just interactive. We're going to create stuff, right? So that's all part of the new course catalog. All of this that I'm showing you here, I've actually walked through it with you at least once before in the past. In Launchpad, I've shown you some of this, but this takes no time to create. So it seems like it's a lot of work because I'm explaining it to you, but the truth is when I'm physically at my desk and I'm creating this stuff, it doesn't take a whole lot of time.
I have a question.
The question I have for you is, what are you prepared to do to get a listing? It's that last question. Okay, so if you're prepared to spend the time to do this, then you know what? There's a good chance you're going to impress that person. One more thing. I didn't get every single listing that I went to, but I went full guns blazing, full arsenal of everything I can bring to impress this person. If I don't get Amy's listing, then it's for whatever other reason. But I came in, I can sleep at night knowing I gave Amy everything I have. So I'm like you. I don't get every single listing, but look at what I come prepared with. So you have a question?
Yeah, this was one of the questions. Do you get all the listings when you go with this kind of presentation?
And that's just being honest. Yeah, no.
And the other question is, now you talked about presenting something, you know, how to do the package.
Yeah.
I'm one of those who's not savvy. Tech savvy.
Yeah.
So I take longer. Is there any place where I can enroll myself and learn on that? I'm ready to do that.
Design center.
Yeah, exactly. I cannot, you know, if you just explain and listening, everything is going over my head, left and right.
That's the design center course that I talked about. So that's part of the new course catalog. So if I come back and we just do design center, that'll answer your question.
Okay.
That'll show you exactly how to do everything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's a couple of things here that I'll just go back that aren't going to be part of design center. But again, this is all done in a Word doc. A lot of this can be done in a Word document. Like you can just list your vendor partners, just keep that. But I will show you how you can create some of this stuff with Remax logos, so it all looks very professional. Okay. Yeah.
I have 3 questions.
3, you only get 2.
My first question is the package that you have for this presentation.
Yes, the one upstairs.
Behind.
Oh, that's a really good question. The question is, do I leave my package behind? I never used to. And I never used to leave it behind because Rico said that you can only tell people the sold price of a property when you're actively doing business, or when it's in the course of doing business. So I could have left it behind, according to me, because that listing package is in the course of me doing business. But the Competition Bureau, the ruling has changed, right? So now if I want to leave it behind, I don't have to worry about that RICO rule, because now the sold price is just going to be published at some point basically everywhere,
But
right?
would it be a benefit to us to leave behind and not leave behind?
That's totally up to you. So I know a number of people who won't leave it behind, not even because of RICO, just because of the work they put into it. So the question is it more beneficial to leave it behind or not leave it behind? That's totally up to you. There's about half of your peers that'll say, you know what, I will give you this package when you sign the contract, right? And then they just walk away with it. And again, the other half of the room will just leave it, right? So the honest answer to that question is, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to leave it behind or not? Leaving it behind, again, it's just it's something that they can always go back to, right? Not leaving it behind, a lot of people will say, well, you know what, it's a lot of the work that I put in, so it's my work. If you want it, just sign the listing presentation. So the listing agreement, my mistake, and I'll leave it with you. It'll now be yours. But if you walk away with it, the question is, does that make you look bad, right? If you walk away with it.
Because it happened to some of my friends that the seller actually showed that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's what happened.
So in the rule, when the Competition Bureau ruled, I stopped trading actively. So I just parked the license. So I've not had an opportunity to leave something behind without the document. I don't know. I think today, for me personally, and you don't have to do what I say, I think I would stick to what I do and just take it. If Amy doesn't sign with me, I'll just take it with me. Because I'm comfortable with that. That's what I'm comfortable doing.
You want to hear what I do?
Pardon me?
You want to hear what I do?
What do you do?
I actually have two separate folders. Like
Okay.
one is all the sold information
Yeah.
about the area. The other is all my material, like the other.
Yes, perfect.
Leave the sold information, which is to them. But all my marketing stuff, I take them with me.
Okay, so perfect, because that's what this is here. So this, if you put the sold contact into here, or sold information into here, you can walk away with that. But you could definitely leave everything else that doesn't have any of the sold data, right? So yeah, it's totally up to you, whatever you're comfortable doing. Okay? Whatever works.
And another question is,
Yes.
you said about the other thing,
This one?
no, the last one.
This one.
This one, impact on competition, because you say about us, about the house and about the market.
About the seller,
The seller,
the house,
the house,
and you as a real estate professional.
but they don't care about us. Yeah, so that's why I don't always understand how we can explain.
That's fine. What I do, and I also said the focus of this paragraph is the property. So I said that. So really, yes, there's an impact on the three of you, but you really want to focus on the impact on the property. Because nobody cares about the seller, nobody cares about you as a listing agent, but they care about the property. So the other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that when you're talking about the impact on credibility, when the property's been listed for longer than the average days on market, people start looking at what's wrong with it. It could be a perfectly good home, right? But again, now the property starts to develop a stigma, which we're going to talk about in a second, okay? But really, again, I would focus more on the property. Of course, because you want to say, you know what, this is what I do for a living, this is something that I do on a regular basis. I'm known in the neighborhood as someone who gets things done for... Well, you can't see it up there. But again, your own impact on credit, the impact on your credibility, because again, you're professional. And when you bring that up, it really again continues to highlight your professionalism in what it is you do. Okay? So I know they don't care about us, but you care about yourself and your ability to present something professional.
One last question.
Yeah, okay.
I saw the website that you showed,
Yeah.
it has the price on it,
Yep.
but would you suggest...
Oh, sorry. Yes. No, yeah. So here, the website, okay. This is the other thing. That's a really good point. That's the other thing about this. I'm showing all of this to Amy, right? If Amy is okay with my suggestion, because I'm going to go in with my suggested price. Amy, when we list today, or if we were to list today, this is what I would suggest. Now, we're going to have a conversation. If Amy's not happy with it, of course, she sees that it's there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit it. So I'll go back to the design center, edit out to be the price. Which again, if you know your tools, this doesn't take a lot. This doesn't take a lot of time. It's quick, and then post it before I release it, right? But I'm showing Amy everything I can do right away. Right away. Now the coming soon, or what I can do is I could leave that blank, and then when I'm there, okay, fill it in, and then post it, do all that stuff, right? So good point. Okay. Now the coming soon again. This can be changed. So of course, this can't really be changed unless the design center. But what I can say to Amy is, listen, if we have to change the price, let me change it really quick, but definitely before tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., this will be out as well. All I have to do is change the price. Because right now, everything's locked to you. So even though it's posted, no one can see it right on your social media. Good question. So the listing meeting. So here's where it gets really good. So the listing meeting is when you're going to physically go and you're going to meet the people. So I like to ask this question because here's what's going to happen. You're going to go in, knock on the door, walk in, they're going to greet you. They're typically going to say something like, well, let me show you around the house, am I right? So I always like to ask, who tours the house with the seller, or who tours the house on their own? So who tours the house on their own? Again, it's just me. All of you tour the house with the seller. Okay. Now, when you tour the house with the seller, you've got to be very careful. Okay, so these are some examples I love using because it's all happened to me. So I repeat it, so I apologize if you heard it in the past. But when you tour the house with the seller, here's what's going to happen. They're going to start to point at things and start talking about those things. So I've actually had sellers say to me, look at this paint. And these are all true stories, so it's funny. This is Ralph Lauren paint. And they'll start talking about the paint, right? Oh, it's nice paint. It's beautiful paint. And we say things like that. So I was in a house once and they said, the tile, look at this tile. This is illegal tile, true story. It was all brought in from Chile, okay, illegally. No one steps on this tile right here, no one steps on this tile. It was the last tile my grandfather laid, and he died. So no one steps on this tile. True story, I'm telling you, this is all, you've all got your own stories. And every time that they point something out, you say, that's gorgeous, or that's beautiful. And when you say things like that, what are you actually doing? Pardon me? You're adding value, but what are you really doing to yourself? You're making your life more difficult. Because they're hearing cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Your house is supposed to look like that because your neighbor's house looks exactly like yours. Right? So what I do is I tour the house on my own. So when they say, John, let me show you the house, I'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Saj, go back to Amy, listen, you know what? I've done this a couple times in the past, as you know. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at the house the way a first-time buyer would see the house without the influence of the seller. And I'd like to be able to meet you at the kitchen table in about 10 minutes. I'll have my notes and we can have a discussion then. Does that sound fair to you? Now, here's what I've been successful 100% of the time, to be honest with you. But I've always been prepared for, I don't know who you are. Amy can look at me and say, I don't trust you. You look a little shady. I would say, fine, show me the house, but I'd be prepared for all those comments. I would look around the home, and I would find things to talk about other than the house. If I see pictures of Amy and her family on a vacation, I'll say, where'd you go? If I see that her kids play sports, I say, oh, I coach sports too, what do they play? I want to drive Amy's attention away from the Ralph Lauren paint and from the illegal Chilean tile, right? Or the new hardware that she's got in her ensuite. So, that's what I would be prepared to do. But I don't want to say things like, that's gorgeous, or that's beautiful, or oh my God, it's stunning. Because what Amy hears is cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. And what that does is it makes my life harder. I'm creating this uphill battle for myself. Because we do have the top price, don't we? And whatever price I give Amy, it's going to be $1 million lower than what she's thinking, right? Yeah, always, right? So, take your notes, and then once you walk the house, you're going to now ask some questions. I'm going to now meet Amy at the kitchen table, and we're going to start talking about the home and, again, pricing and strategy. So the first question is a question that you could ask in the first call that you have with the vendor, or you can ask it now. I like to ask this question before I go see the seller. So along with, if I present you with everything that you need, are you willing to sell to, would you be willing to sign that night? And they can have that conversation based on the response. I'd also like to ask, what would you like to accomplish with our meeting? Okay, so what is it that you would like to see as the outcome of our meeting? And I want to be able to set the tone for what Amy's expecting. Okay? Now, motivation, what brought you to this the decision to sell your home? I want to spend 5 minutes on this because a lot of us get it wrong. Now, most of you know my professional background, again, is sales and marketing. I've taught sales way before I taught real estate sales. But in any face-to-face industry, the people are always asked to uncover motivation. But too many of you confuse motivation with reason. There's a big difference between reason and motivation. Now, I know this is going to be on film. I'm going to explain to you something that, again, before I explain this example, I know about matrimonial law. I'm not a lawyer, but I know about the impacts of that. I know what a matrimonial home is. I know the importance of what spousal consent means. So all of those things I know. But I also know 3 things. Know your client. So here's my example when I explain the difference between motivation and reason. A good friend of mine, my business partner and client, lived in Aurora. And we used to meet once a month for fish and chips. And it was a Wednesday, so we met. And he says to me, John, listen, I took that job in New York. I need you to sell my house. I said, okay, great. I can come by next week. When are you leaving? Blah, blah, blah. He goes, no. I need you to sell my house this weekend. It was Wednesday. Okay? I said, well, I can refer someone who's closer. No, John, you need to sell my house. I don't trust anybody else. I said, what the hell? What's going on? He says, well, Maria, his wife, who, by the way, I need to also preface this. I've known these people. I've known Jamie for a long time. And Maria I've known for equally long. So again, know your client. Don't do this with people you just met at an open house. All right? It won't work. Maria is overseas right now. And if she comes back and we still have this house, she's going to want to keep it as an investment property. I don't want to keep this house as an investment property. I just want to sell it. I said, okay, Jamie, you know it's a matrimonial home. I know she's not untitled, but it's a matrimonial home. I explained all of that to him. I explained spousal consent to him, blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, do you need spousal consent if they're not untitled to sell the property?
Yes.
You do? If they're not untitled, technically no. Right? Yeah. But you should, okay, because it allows you to sleep better at night, right? I would still get it. As a matter of fact, spousal consent, I don't care who that person is sitting on the other end of the kitchen table. They could be like common law or close to common. I'd still get them to sign it anyway. As long as they're there, whoever's there is signing spousal consent, right? Now, that's a little conversation. So Jamie said, John, I would never put you in a position that would get you in trouble. Again, now keep in mind, Jamie and I have done deals together in the past, and we're also very good friends. So I sold this house that weekend. I sold it. But too many people would look at his job in New York as motivation. It's not. What I was able to do is I was able to really uncover the motivation. His reason for selling is his job in New York. But he could keep the house because he's got far more money than I do. He's got enough to keep the mortgage. He just didn't want to keep it. His true motivation was because he didn't want to keep it as an investment property. Once you learn how to ask questions to uncover the true motivation, you will always be on the winning end of your suggested selling price because you can always go back to why they're truly motivated to sell that property. When you just go back to reason, it doesn't make any sense because the reason isn't important enough. So what I'd like for you all to do is, and again, if you don't have time to do this class, is learn how to ask the right questions to uncover motivation. Do you all understand the difference now between reason and motivation? And why this is more important than reason? Okay?
But if the seller is a working guy, sometimes it didn't tell you the truth.
Well, that's again, that's all in questioning. So there's another, I used to teach another class called fact finding. I've never taught it for real estate. It's all been about sales and how you ask the right questions in the right way to strategically uncover what the reasons are between for either a buy or a sell or an invest. Right. So it's all in how you question.
I met one client, the working client. He already bought
Yeah.
I'm not an agent, but he's not, he was not satisfied with that agent, so he wants to sell his house, but he just told me, I just want to test how much I can sell it. I very last minute, he said, that house must be closed, so this one should be.
Okay.
In other words, he didn't tell me the truth.
Yeah, and again, that's all in how you, that's all in questioning. Pardon me?
The strategy was different.
The strategy has definitely been different. So again, we don't have time in this class, but I will tell you that there are classes out there, and again, I already told you I used to teach one, on how to uncover motivation through questioning. Maybe I should come back and just do it for you guys. Okay. Was that on camera? Okay, anyways. Yes. But there are ways that you can ask questions so that one, you don't put that person at a defensive, and yet they still open up to you and answer the right question and answer truthfully. There are ways that you can do that. Okay. All right. So in our example with Jamie, did he have time to test the market? No, we had to sell it within that weekend. So timing, you have to uncover whether or not there's some flexibility there or not. Same thing with pricing. Do you have a price in mind? Have you had any other evaluations? This here is a really good way for you to uncover again what the seller knows about the neighborhood. So here's a game, not really a game, but here's something you can do. When you walk in, so I walked in, and again, Amy greeted me. She allowed me to walk around the house. But before I leave Amy, I'm going to say, Amy, here's a piece of paper, or give them your business card. Here's my business card. What I'd like for you to do is on the back of my business card, write down what you think our suggested listing price would be when we list the house tonight. Okay? So when I come back, what we'll do is we'll compare notes. Because I've done a CMA, I want to know what you know about the neighborhood, because that's not fair. Amy's like, yeah, okay, sure. When you get back to the kitchen table, you will now at some point in this conversation ask what Amy's got underneath the business card. So we'll get back to that in a second. Importance. What's the most important thing in selling your home? The importance could be, of course, getting the highest price, but Amy can say, I just had a newborn. Do we have to have showings all night long? No, as a matter of fact, we can stop showings at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., but we do have to have as many days as possible. But she can also say, I work shifts, or I've got elderly parents who live in the basement or upstairs. There could be other things that you need to uncover. Pets. She might have a cat or a dog. You can't let them out. So there are things that might be more important in her mind than just the price. So uncover that. Be proactive. Conditions of the home. Any problem with the property that will need to be disclosed. This is one of my favorite examples when I talk about this. So again, I apologize if you've heard this before. But one of my last listings before I parked my license, the seller said to me, John, can we get an offer with no conditions? And I said, well, based on our strategy, right, and based on the pricing, the days on market, et cetera, of the home, I think we will. And I think we're probably going to get 3 or 4 with no conditions. Well, why? They said, well, because when you turn the ensuite on upstairs, this is a true story, it leaks into the kitchen. We haven't used the ensuite shower in like 5 years. I said, what the hell is that? Well, I'm glad you told me, because we need to either disclose it or fix it. You guys know patent and latent defects, et cetera, but Section 21, 2 parts of RICO, Part A and Part B, is material fact. If you know a material fact of a home, you have to disclose it. With or without an inspection, that buyer could easily sue the seller for knowing that existed, that material fact existed. So I said, we need to either fix it or disclose it. What do you want to do? And again, true story. They said to me, well, we wish we never told you. I said, no, you better be happy you told me, because part of my fiduciary duty is to protect you. Now, keep in mind, anybody can sue anybody in this country, but according to RICO, Section 21, if the buyer agent is smart, they'll know this, which I'm assuming they are, and they could easily sue you for not disclosing material fact. Now, whether you win or lose, that all depends on how well your lawyer does, but do you want that headache? So what do you want to do, disclose it or fix it? Well, if we fix it, do we get more money? I said, no, they're expecting it to work, right? So they said, by the way, you know what, just turn to page 7 of my book, because I've got plumbers there. We can call somebody, and we can have them in to fix it. They said, no, we've already called somebody. It'll cost us $500. I'm like, $500? Why didn't you fix it 5 years ago? That's nothing. I said, yeah, well, we just got lazy. I said, then fix it. So they fixed it, right? And we got all the paperwork, and I gave them the warranty. The warranty was given to the buyers, so everything was good, right? But again, you need to understand conditions of the home. But more importantly, this is more common. Assuming this is a credit, like this is a hutch of some kind, and it goes all the way down. Have you ever moved into a home or listed a home and you moved it and the hardwood or the laminate underneath is rotted, or the carpet is completely chewed up? You need to disclose stuff like that. You need to fix it or disclose it. Because when the buyers move in, that's a lot of money in repairs. Right? So again, material fact, just understand it. Have more of a presentation, less of a conversation. More and more people want to be involved in the process. And this is not just sellers, this is you as well. Put yourself as the consumer in whatever scenario. There's a good chance that you don't want to be sold to anymore. You want to be part of the process. Okay? This is being sold to. Okay? Sorry, that's presentation. This is conversation. You want to do more of this, be part of the process. That's being sold to. That was okay years and years ago, but not in today's market of the changing consumer profile. The changing consumer profile expects to be involved, just like you expect to be involved when you're the consumer. Now, very few people are like my cousin who says, John, I know nothing about this stuff. You take it over and do it. That's why I hired you. Less and less people are like that. Okay. So have more of a conversation, less of a presentation. Talk with them. Build a relationship and have a conversation. But a lot of your conversation is going to be about you now and what it is you know about the market and how to sell a property. So, this is a really interesting stat. Many years ago, actually not many years ago, probably about 3 years ago, 2 years ago, the stat was 1 in 10 millennials who buy a property sight unseen. Because everything they need to know is featured on the internet now. Matterport or virtual tours, aerial drones, neighborhood information, all of that stuff can be found on the internet. 1 in 10 would buy a property sight unseen. Recently, about 6 months ago, 4 in 10. 4 in 10 millennials will buy a property sight unseen. That's crazy to me, but that's what it is now. So you need to highlight your knowledge of the internet and why it's important to feature the property in its prime, okay? In its prime form on the internet. Because again, this just says 92% of home buyers start their search online. Okay? They start their search online, and 51% of people bought the home they're living in, and they found that online. So online marketing is really important. So property, photography, and video, really important. So what I want you to do is I want you to really pay attention to how what your finished product looks like. Make sure you're hiring the right photographer. There are a number of people who, as recently as a year ago that I saw, are still taking photos of the home with this. Please don't do that. If you're listing, what is the average listing price of a property today in this neighborhood? All property types. Over $1 million? You're listing a property for over $1 million. You're walking around taking pictures with your phone. Where's your value-added proposition there? How much does it cost to have a photographer come in, do professionally done photos and a virtual tour, as we know it today? I'm not talking about Matterport. I'm just talking about a standard photographer who comes in and does $250? $250. That's totally worth it. Okay? Because again, it highlights your professionalism. So make sure you understand that images are worth a lot on the internet. This here versus this and that versus that. But you all know this already, right? Stage, so video, listings that contain video are more than 403% more likely to get increased than those without. So really important for you to make sure you highlight video in your presentation. Okay? Staging, even if their house is perfect, have the conversation anyways. Because here's what could happen. It's happened to me, it might happen to you. I've actually said, your house is literally perfect. We can list this house tonight. We don't even have to stage it because it's already technically staged. They actually said to me, John, we wanted to talk to you about that. Do we have to use our furniture? Because we really like our furniture. Some of these pieces are very sentimental. We would rather not have kids bouncing around on them or people sitting on them. So can we use other furniture? So that's a conversation that was completely out of whack to me. Like I was not expecting that. But we end up having to stage it with different furniture already. So have a conversation about staging. 38% of listing agents said that they stage a seller's home prior to listing them for sale. And staged homes do get about 1 to 5% more than a house that isn't staged. Has anyone tried to sell a home that wasn't staged? or that's completely empty. Has anyone ever tried to sell a completely empty home? It's hard to do because people have no imagination. That's an empty house. If you told me that that room could host 5 people comfortably, I'd be like, there's no way. Look at it, I can barely fit in this room. But when you put the furniture there, there's 1, 2, someone can stand in the middle, 3, 4, 5, there's actually 6. You can fit 6 people in this room comfortably. But without the staging, people have no imagination. It's harder to sell. So please consider that. Has anyone ever staged property? Please consider it, because I know it might be painful if you're eating the bill, but the truth is, 1, highlight your professionalism, 2, it could get you a referral, 3, it'll sell the property faster versus it sitting there. Okay. Now, let them know about the websites that you belong to. Okay, so of course, global.remax.com is part of our global awareness. So make sure you let them know it is on remax.ca and it's also on remax.ca and global.remax.com. But remember when I was with Amy showing her all my marketing material? Here's how you use global.remax.com to your advantage. Not only are you going to explain that your property automatically syndicates to this so that globally over 104 countries will see it in every language and every currency, but Amy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print your listing once it's up on global.remax.com in different languages. So I'm bringing to Amy again what I've shown her in the past. So what I've done is I've printed all these other listings that I've done in these different languages. This one's in Italian, okay, as you can see. I'm going to do the same thing with your house. What I've discovered, culturally, in your neighborhood, there's a lot of Russians, Italians, and Chinese. So I'm going to print your listing, 10 stacks each, in Russian, Italian, and Chinese. So this way, when these people come into your home, they'll see it in their language, because I'll identify it with a tent card. They'll take it. Does that not look good in their language? Does that not look good to you? How much did this cost you to do? Just the printing, but you didn't have to pay anybody to translate. This is Google Translator, and no, I don't know if it's accurate, but I'm going to go with the fact that it is, okay? But this is stuff that sets you apart. So keep in mind, when I tell you, this is what I do, this is literally what I do. So imagine me being the first person in to a listing presentation. I'm the one you're competing against. Okay? Unless it's a $5 million home, which again, I don't do, because again, it's not part of my portfolio of homes. I'm not going to turn one down, but I don't actively seek them. But I do the average. This is me being average. So once again, I want to give you this idea of going to global.remax.com, put your address into there, change the language up at the top. The headings start to print in that language, but here in the body, you have to change it to that language as well. Okay? And again, Amy, this is what I'm going to do for you. Sorry you were away, I was talking about you. What do you think of that? Great. Okay, now, again, moving on, that's what it looks like. Social media, let your people know that you have an active social media. Again, I've proven to Amy that I have an active social media by showing her that I've put this stuff on there. Just sign my exclusive listing. Once you sign the exclusive listing, I'll release this to everybody, provided, of course, no change needs to be made to price. Right? But at least she knows I'm active on social media. And of course, explain the network of your buyers. Print advertising, of course, we all do feature sheets. I've just given you a little tip. I don't do feature sheets anymore. What I do is I have that binder thing, and I create, of course, something that people can take when they do viewings, but mine is a little bit more involved. I get involved in the community. Amy's lived there for 25 years, so yes, I want to showcase to Amy that I don't only know her home. Sure, it's triple pane window, new roof, updated HVAC, I get all that, but I know the neighborhood. I want her to understand that I'm going to focus on moving someone into this home so that they will enjoy the neighborhood just as much as she did. This is you actually talking about, again, understanding everything and not just the house. It sets you apart. So I include the schools. I include the Fraser Report, which is a whole other conversation, but learn how to talk about that. Not the be-all and end-all, but it's a good piece of information to include. I include bus shelters. I include, again, what happens at the community centers for parent and taught events. I include, again, when the events are locally. The Bread and Honey Festival. I live in Mississauga, so I can say that's from that. Rib Fest. So I have the house and the images, but I also have all that other information. Okay? that really showcases, again, your professionalism. Does it cost you a lot more to print? No. It costs you a couple of, it might cost you an extra $10 total, not each book, but total, an extra $10. But what's $10? Don't go to McDonald's for a day, right? So, here's where I said that conversation about price comes up. Amy's going to say, so I'm going to sit with Amy. I'm going to say, Amy, remember the business card I gave you to put down what you feel we would be listing at tonight when we list your home? What did you put? Here's what I think. So actually telling you first. I think we should list for $979. Okay? And these are all the reasons why, again, based on what I've just presented to you. What do you think you should be listing for? And if Amy says, we had $979, yeah, that's what I thought too. Perfect. What did you do? You quoted a higher number than what she wrote down. But is that really going to happen in real life? Amy's going to say, we talked about $979. I'm thinking 1.5. Okay. So now you're going to have a conversation about pricing strategy. Okay. You've already introduced this a little bit in the pre-listing package and in your presentation. Amy, listen, 1.5 versus my 979, let's figure this out because there's something here that we're not seeing eye to eye with. So, based on everything I told you, here's the CMA, blah, 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 to recap it. But now you want to talk about the pricing strategy. What happens if you overprice? If you overprice, then less buyers are going to show interest. And the sales take longer. But let me explain to you overpricing really quickly. Okay? So, I want you to write this down. It's called addressable base. This is a marketing term that I used to use all the time because whenever I launched a marketing campaign, the key was to attract the true addressable base for that campaign. I'm going to introduce it to you in the real estate world. So addressable base is when priced properly, the target market that you're looking to attract for this product is going to see the product and make a decision on whether or not they want to buy this product. Now, Amy, I am at $979. The person who's going to buy your home is really going to be working with a real estate professional. Like, let's be honest. Very few people are working on their own now because they're smarter. So when a real estate professional is taking somebody out and that person's budget is $979, where I'm putting you at, what is the range of homes that real estate agent is taking that person to? So let me ask you, obviously as low as possible, but your cap, what are you putting as your ceiling for negotiations? Their budget's $980, my budget's $980, so what are you giving me as a cap? What are we looking at? I've told you already, if I pay $981, my kids don't eat, okay? Because that's a question I asked. Give me your cap so that if you pay $1,000 more, your kids don't eat. That's what we're going to be working with. I just told you $980. What properties are you going to show me up until? $990? Max $990. So we've got a $10,000 swing, which in this market is probably fair, right? A $20,000 swing likely is going to happen in this price range, right? So that's fair. So I say to Amy, those agents are showing homes between $990 and lower. Lower is good. Which means if we list at 1.5, the addressable base of people who should be seeing your home are not seeing your home. The people who are seeing your home are in a different category. Now, you've got a beautiful home, Amy, but at 1.5, you're competing against people who have an extra bedroom, who have an extra maybe 100 square feet, who have probably 10 extra feet of frontage. They might even have something like a hot tub. Now, their finished basement's going to be bigger with an extra bathroom, so they might have 2 extra bathrooms. So these are the people you're going to be competing against. So the addressable base that are looking at that home, okay, are looking for something different because of the price point. Now, based on everything I've shown you, okay, we should be at 9.79. Based on your motivation to sell for these reasons, it's going to sell the house in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of inconvenience for the right price. Now, again, this conversation is going to happen. She's going to be saying stuff as well. But Amy, listen. If we price it at 1.5, we're selling everybody's house. We're selling everybody else's house out down here where you should be because they're not seeing yours, and we're selling everybody else's house up here because they're looking at yours and they're putting it up against these other homes, using your house as a reason to buy those. So let me ask you a question. would you rather us sell your house or everybody else's house? So that's a conversation you can have. That's just one way to address the overpricing. Now, do you all understand the concept of addressable base? You need to price it so that the people who can see the home are the people who are going to buy the home. Now, again, if Amy were at 979, you're now competing legitimately with the people who can afford that range. And you're likely going to sell your house before anyone else sells theirs. Because your house is likely more superior, okay, but still within the same price range. Underpricing, be careful with this because, of course, underpricing, you can attract a stigma, right? One of my favorite examples is I had a buyer and they sent me a listing that they actually sent to them with the prospect match. They sent it back to say we want to see this house. I looked at the price and I said, guys, listen, I know this area. This could be a grow-up or a stigma property because it's priced really low. So let's have a look at the property, and if you really like it, what I'll do is I'll call the listing agent and find out what's up with the house. So we saw the property, they loved it. I called the listing agent and I said, listen, we just came from seeing your home, and I just want to do my diligence because they're interested enough that they wanted to get some additional information. Is there anything wrong with it? I know there's a home open house this weekend, because they have a sign, open house this weekend. But I thought I'd call you first. There's nothing wrong with the house. I said, okay, because they've got some cultural issues, and I started making stuff up. You know, they can't buy a house that was this, that, or the other. And they says, no, there's really nothing wrong with the house. I said, okay, great. So let me talk to my buyers. So he says, John, before you go, let me ask you a question. I said, okay, sure. What do you think about the price? I said, why? Well, I'm not someone from this neighborhood. I actually work in Oakville, but I'm doing this for a friend. How do you feel about the price? I said, oh, the price is perfect. Don't worry about the price. It's great. The price is great. Not a problem. Right? All good. I called my clients and I said, we're going to put an offer on that house tonight. And we're going to start at this price. Whatever their sign back is, you're just going to take. Because this agent isn't from this neighborhood, doesn't know what they're doing. They totally underpriced the home. We ended up buying that house for like $20,000 less than what it should have been listed for. So, the moral of the story, I automatically assume the stigma property, right? But at the same time, underpricing the home, not knowing the market, you're selling it for way lower than it should be. So there's a lot in that example. Be careful underpricing. Now, if you underprice to stir competitive offers, then again, still be careful with how low you go. Because a lot of people like to brag about 50 offers on a home. List the house for $1 then, right? Because the truth is, the person who comes in, the top 3 that come in by listing way down here are going to be the same top 3 that come in when you list a little higher, and you only now have to present 10 offers instead of 50 or 60, right? So be careful when you underprice. Now, the right price is where you want to live, of course. This is you being a professional. This is you knowing the neighborhood, knowing the area, knowing the properties. This is you knowing days on market, months of inventory. Keep in mind, when Amy tells me 1.5, that's when my month of inventory conversation comes in, right? I'll say, and days on market, of course. So I can tie those two into an overpriced home and fall back on her motivation and really get her to believe that her property is 979. If Amy has time to test, I'll test at 990. But how long is my test for? How long is your test? I've tested properties before too. But how long is your test? Is it a month?
No. 2 weeks.
Maybe 2 weeks, right? Of course, depending on the market, a test in Chatham, where their days on market I think is 4 or 5, is going to be different than our test here. Their test market could be a month, right? Where ours is 2 weeks. So know your market. Okay? But this is where you want to live. This is where strategic pricing is based on fact. Okay? So make sure you're here. Once you determine the right pricing strategy, then of course, you want to make sure that you present it, and now the objections come in. So what you need to do really effectively is handle objections. This is where you need to understand 2 words, which everybody hates. Role play. You guys all know what role play means? You know, has anyone ever tried it? Has anyone ever done it? You hate it. And I'll tell you why you hate it, because it's weird. It is. It's strange. But I'll tell you why everyone hates role play Because everyone seems to think that every role play has to end in a positive, right? So Eliza and I are role playing, and Eliza's trying, and I'm trying to get Eliza to sign my BRA. Okay? And Eliza says, no. The whole idea around this is I've got to try and get Eliza to sign my BRA. Unless, if I don't, then it was a failure. Here's a successful role play. Well, Eliza, thanks very much, but I want to make sure I protect my time, and I want to make sure I protect your time. And as a client-agent, in a client-agent relationship, I can do that and making sure you're also protected. So what I need to do now is I need to say, no, I can't work with you, but I'd like to follow up with you in 2 days to see where you're at, to make sure that, again, you haven't changed your mind. Does that sound fair to you? Walk away. That's a successful role play. Another successful role play is, you know what, Eliza? I'm at 979, you're at 1.5. I've given you all the information that you need to make sure that you are listed properly to meet your motivation to sell your home. Obviously, we're on 2 different pages here. I don't want to push you anymore, but you know what? I'd like to follow up with you in 2 days to see where you're at with your other interviews. Does that sound fair to you? Then walk away. A successful role play is you also learning how to walk away. So don't always think that she has to sign my listing agreement. When you learn how to do that, you know how many times you pick up your papers, stack them, walk away, and Eliza says, hang on, John, before you go. And then the conversation picks up again. Has anyone here ever negotiated for a car? Has anyone bought a car? Yeah. I do this for sport. I love negotiations. I taught a negotiations course. I've actually said with my friends, and my fee is cheap, beer and wings, that's it, that's how I get paid. But I'll say to my friends, time to go, and we'll walk away, and they'll stop us in the parking lot. Has that ever happened to anybody where they stop you in the parking lot, right? They say, hey, before you go, let's talk this out. There's always room. Now, if Eliza lets me walk away, what did I do? I set the tone for following up with you in 2 days, right? But again, unless you really understand that a successful role play can also mean you walking away, you're never going to do it, right? So learn how to successfully role play. But that's you planning what these questions are going to be. So we get a lot of these questions. I'm not going to go through all of them. But will you lower your commission? So I'm going to ask you, what's your name?
Fanny.
I'm sorry?
Fanny.
Fanny, will you lower your commission?
No.
Was there anything wrong with that answer?
No.
That's the perfect answer. The only thing I would have added was something else. I wouldn't have left the silence. I would have said, so ask me, Ashley. Ask me.
Would you
Ask me.
lower your commission?
Will you lower your commission?
No, thanks for asking. So what I've done is I've highlighted all the areas that you need to initial. I've highlighted all the areas you need to sign. Here's a pen. Let's get this going. Now, is Fanny going to sign? No, your problem. Yes, your problem. But no, you might say something else. Wait, hang on a second here. Before I do, wait, but another agent said that they would do it for, and then again, you're going to be prepared for that, right? So another agent said it was, we'll do it for 1%. And I'll say, okay, well, I don't know what that other agent's all about. Don't tell me who it is. But I make sure I do this for, I do this for a living and do this to feed my kids. And I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm not some random agent who's off the street. I've got a history of this. My job is to make sure you succeed in your sale and put the most amount of money in your pocket. That's what I do. I owe you a certain amount of fiduciary duties. Actually, I owe you all my fiduciary duties. Right? So I don't know what that other agent does, okay, but in terms of my value that I bring to you, I'm worth a lot more. Okay? And I can prove that to you by showing you this, that, and the other. So here's a piece of paper. Let's get this going, because you can see I'm really excited about your listing. I've shown you my website. I told you, sign this, and then we can actually move on, right? Now here's the truth. My goal that night is to get the exclusive listing. Because the truth is, in the listing presentation, we probably have things to do in the house, right? But I want the exclusive, because once I get the exclusive, I can, in one page, the amendment, transition that to an MLS right away, right? So I'm explaining all this to you. Let's sign the exclusive first, and then transition to an MLS in 10 days once we fixed everything. Okay? That's my goal. The listing itself, we can't actually list on the MLS until it's fully ready to go. But we need to fix things. So I always carry exclusive listings in my truck. Okay? Always carry the most updated version of it. Okay? But I always carry exclusive listings in my truck. Okay? They're in a folder, ready to go in my safety bag.
So you sign the exclusive first?
Sign the exclusive first, and then what I do is I include an amendment. Okay? That's that says it's going to be an MLS on this day. So I don't have to go back to you. Well, no, I will go back to you for the amendment, but or what I do is I can write out the amendment, right? Because the amendment's in my head, I can write it out. It's really easy, right? Or I can have a preset one and then just fill in the blank, address, price, and date. So that's really easy as well. Okay, so the body of the amendment's created, I just put lines for your address, price, and the date. Okay, and then just have to sign that. So you sign one document, and then it becomes an MLS later. I don't have to go back to you. Yeah. All right. So these are top seller objections that you need to be prepared for. Now we're not going to go through every one of these because these 7 questions can literally be a 2-hour course. Because I can show you how you can come up with 3 or 4 different responses to all of these. But the truth is, you need to practice this stuff. So we have a friend relative in the business. Okay, let me ask you, Penny, why am I here? If you've got a friend or relative in the business, why am I here? Well, we wanted to get another opinion. Oh, okay, great. So you want to get another opinion. So I've given you my opinion. But the truth is, okay, you've got your friend ready to go, right? Let me ask you a question now. When your friend only tells you what you want to hear and doesn't prepare you, okay, with the right information, because all they want to do is make you smile, that's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you because you're not being told the truth. All they want to do is keep the friendship. They want to make sure they don't harm that. You and I just met. You can fire me at any time, which is not going to happen, by the way. But my job is to give you all the information, good or bad. Right? So whether I offend you, I don't care. Right? You shouldn't either, because that's my job. To make sure you know everything about your home. Okay? Is your friend going to do that? Is your family member going to do that for you? And if they don't, and your deal goes south, what's going to happen at that barbecue you have to go to next week? Right? It's going to be really awkward, right? So that's just one way. We're interviewing more agents. This is usually along, if you want to think about this more, because you didn't present something clearly. Go back to your CMA, go back to this presentation, and try to uncover what they're still confused about. Okay? My neighbor, my friend said, oh, really, what brokerage is your neighbor with? We may have done a deal together. Okay. Oh, no, my neighbor's not an agent, he's just my neighbor. Oh, so your neighbor doesn't do this for a living. I do. Okay? Your friend, again, your friend said it's worth this. Well, you know what brokerage are they with? Because we may have done a deal together. Oh no, they just said, you know, it's worth this. Okay, well let me explain to you the difference between your friend and me, right? So again, there's a lot of ways that you can combat this, which is really important for you to understand how you respond to these things, but you've got to do it confidently. Because ask me again if I'll reduce my commission. Ask me again.
The same question?
Yeah, same question.
Okay. Will you lower your commission?
Well, see, here's the thing. Already, I seem unsure, right? That's not a confident response. Your response is confident, no, right? But again, I would just add one more thing to it. The more silence there is in the conversation, the more stress it puts on you. So try and alleviate all that silence. So I would have just said, no, but thanks for asking. Here's a pen and here's the listing agreement or exclusive. I've highlighted all the areas you need to initial and sign. Let's get this going because you can see I'm really excited about this. So figure out again how you're going to come up with responses to these and then use them. Close them. I just told you, the more silence, the more likely you're not going to get the listing. So here's the thing. All of you have created a phenomenal listing presentation. You've worked everything up to this point perfectly. Now, there's a silence because you don't know how to close. Right? And here's the reason why you don't close, because you're afraid of rejection. Everything was perfect up to that point. You want to keep that perfection going for as long as you can, even though there's silence. But I just told you, the more silence, the more likely you won't get the listing. So find a way to close. Here's the best way to do it. Blame somebody else. Okay? So here's what I do. Fanny, listen, I'm really excited about your listing. I've actually checked the weather report. My photographer is waiting in the wings. The weather report says we've got good weather Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I want to book my photographer to come in and at least do the exterior shots. I know we've got stuff to do on the outside, but I want him to get the exterior shots done right now. Okay, so front, back, neighborhood, all that other good stuff. You think I can book him now? Blame the photographer, right? Blame the weather. But again, you can even just ask for it. Let's get the paper signed. If you don't want to do that, blame somebody else, right? That makes it a lot easier for you. But these are some ways that you can start getting them to close. Ask them, let's get the paper signed. Or when can I start promoting your property in my network? Right? But you've got to actually minimize that silence. You have to ask for the close. This is you working, because you know they're going to say something to you that you got to respond with. But the response you've already rehearsed, right, in the role play. I can stand up literally all day. You can throw me objections, and because I've taught sales for 5 years and real estate sales for a number of years as well, I can literally come, you can literally record the session and take all that stuff. We're not going to do it, by the way, okay, so don't get any ideas, Joseph. But that's not because I woke up knowing how to do it, it's because I actually role-played it all. Think about this. Award-winning actors and actresses, Grammy Award-winning musicians, they don't wake up winning those awards. They actually practice, they rehearse. Why wouldn't you do the same thing for you? So I ask you one more time, what are you prepared to do to get a listing? That third question, are you prepared to do this? Because one listing isn't 15,000, it's 45,000. Now that you know that, are you prepared to try and role play with a peer, with a coach, with your broker of record, manager, training at whomever? Are you prepared to do that? All right, and of course, I've shown you this. This is the listing presentation that I won't bore you with. This is already a Launchpad. This is the luxury version of it. Are we okay with what we've learned so far in the listing presentation? Yeah? Good information you've taken away? One or two things? Many things? Okay. Now, I already told you that the buyer presentation is going to be almost similar in terms of what we talked about before. So this is less time. I started 10 minutes late, by the way, so I'm going 10 minutes later. Is that all right with you guys? Okay. Now, once again, when you're working with a buyer, you have to understand the difference between motivation and reason. I've worked with buyers who've said, John, I'm tired of renting. I gotta buy a property. I said, great, let's go buy a property. That's motivation enough for me, right? And then they've said to me, this has probably happened to one or two of you. You've shown them like 5 or 6 or 10 properties. I'm like, you know what, John, I'm tired of this. I'm just gonna move in with my sister for a while. I'll hook up with you next year. Right? What the hell happened there, right? I didn't really uncover their motivation. So I've learned from that one experience. And now when someone says to me, John, I'm tired of renting, I want to buy, I'll say, you're tired? Well, you know what, why don't you move in with somebody? I'll actually introduce it. I'll say, well, move in with someone. Well, no, I can't move with someone because my family's out here, my friends are, they hate me, blah, blah, blah. I'll say, okay, well, really, I mean, are you prepared to buy a property? Do you know what the market's like right now for buyers? Have you checked the interest rate? Yeah, John, I already went to go see a lender. I'm already, oh, great, you saw a lender already. That's another step up, right? But really, why do you want to buy now? John, I get that the market's a little skewed to the sellers, I understand that, but if I don't get in now, then it's gonna get worse later on. So I've already started looking online. Okay, but really, are you looking now for you to start building equity in a property? Yes. Why can't you move in with somebody else? Maybe buy a rental property? No, I want to buy a property I can live in. Great. Ask some questions. Again, that's just 30 seconds of what you can ask. There's dozens more types of questions you can ask to try and uncover true motivation. Okay? But I don't get burned anymore with, you know what, we've seen 10 properties, I don't want to buy anymore, I'm just going to move in with my sister. That happened once, it won't ever happen to me again. And again, their timeline. What's their timeline? Okay, understand that. So you just received an email lead on a listing from a potential buyer. So they want to see property. What do you do next? Here's what you're going to do. Prep for your first call already, like I said. But as you ask all these questions, you're going to ask them one really important question. How much time do you have to see properties that afternoon or that morning? Because here's what too many of us do. And we've done this. We get a call from a random person. They want to see your property that you've got listed or another property. And you've just taken that one property. Have you done that?
Yeah.
You're out already. Why are you wasting your time? Ask them a question. Well, listen, I'd love to be able to show you that property, but you know what? I've also got some time that afternoon or that morning. I'd love to be able to show you more because I happen to know of other properties in that neighborhood. I'd love to be able to help you out. How much time do you have? Well, you know what? I've already got appointments to see properties with this agent and that agent. Listen, did you sign anything? What's best for you right now is to work with one agent because that one agent will have your best interest at heart. Okay, so have that conversation. Okay, do your very best to try and show more than one because you don't want to waste your time. Time is something you can't get back. And once you have them for more than one property, you can start showcasing your value-added proposition and why it's really important for them to work with one agent who has, again, their fiduciary duties covered. And that client-agent relationship. So again, ask these questions here, but what's important is that, again, you show them more properties and try and meet with them either before or after the showings to do either a recap or meet them before and maybe explain your value-added proposition, how you work as a buyer's agent. But there's a couple of questions I want you to consider before you ask, before you get yourself too deep into this relationship. You need to really consider your time. So we've all heard buyers are liars and all that other stuff, right? Does anybody here in this room just not work with buyers anymore? So we all work with buyers, right? So I want you to make sure you don't make the same mistakes I've made. I've made a lot of mistakes, and when I was coaching real estate, I made sure I gave all my mistakes to all my students so that they're a year ahead of everybody else. So I'm going to tell you some of my mistakes, not all of them, but some of them. So I want you to ask a couple of questions before you work with a buyer. When you get a phone call or you meet someone who's random or an email from a buyer who wants to see a property, what do you ask? What are some of the questions you ask? Are you working with an agent? Okay. I don't ask that question anymore. No. I just ask, what's your agent's name? Just get in there. What's your agent's name? Okay? Because here's the problem with, are you working with an agent? They've been conditioned by their part-time real estate agent, full-time firefighter brother, to say, no, I'm not working with an agent. You're going to be the Uber that takes them around all over the place, and when they're happy, because here's the thing, a lot of us, we won't get BRAs, right? Which is another problem. I think I taught the BRA class here. If I didn't, then we can look at it. But, because you all use BRA, BRS. Yeah. Now, you're going to take them around, and when they're happy with the property, they're going to go to their part-time agent, full-time firefighter brother-in-law to put in that offer. You're now screwed. But if I ask what's your agent's name and they say, well, you know, then I know based on that response, they've got someone in their back pocket, right? They could say to you, I don't have an agent, I don't really mean. We just started looking. Now I can work with that, right? I don't even ask, are you qualified anymore? I ask, what's your lender's name? Okay? Because here's my mistake. Are you pre-qualified? Are you qualified? Yep, great. What are you qualified for? $600,000, perfect. Put the offer, this is a true story. Put the offer in. When we got the conditional offer return accepted, I said, what's your lender's name? Because I need to send them all the paperwork. Here's the response. What lender? I'm not a lender. I thought you said you were pre-qualified. Yeah, I went on the Royal Bank website, and I put in all my data, and it spit out a pre-qualification. I said, no, it doesn't work that way. We need to get a lender. So now I just asked what's your lender's name. I don't have a lender. Okay, we need to know really what you're pre-qualified for because of time. Fanny, right? Fanny?
Yeah, Fanny.
I know your time is really important. I can just start taking you out now. The problem is, do you really know that you're good for that amount? You might be good for more. And if you don't want to spend more, that's not a problem. But at least we know. But you might be good for less. So to protect your time, Fanny, let's get you into a lender to make sure that the number that we're looking at is a real number. Because your time is important. Notice how I kept putting it on her? Okay? The other question I asked is, where are you in the process and what's your timeline? All very important questions. Now, I showed you the seller's process chart. There's also a buyer's process chart, which looks like this. Okay. Sorry, where are we? That. Okay. Oh, too much. There. This again you can create because again, Fannie may have never bought a house before. So when you do something like this, you're showing this to her to show empathy. Now, when you bring this to her, okay, you bring it into a folder, and again, I can show you how this works in a second. But again, you're going to ask some questions. Again, these are all questions you know to ask. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's really important for you to understand at least their north, south, east, west grid. Who here is familiar with Mississauga at all? Mississauga is a big span of territory. So I've gotten this in the past. I want to move to Mississauga. John, find me a place in Mississauga. Okay, where in Mississauga? I don't know. I was supposed to move to Mississauga. Well, Mississauga goes from there to there and there to there. I'm not driving you all around Mississauga. Malton is part of Mississauga. You want to go to Malton? Well, no. Okay, so you got to learn to ask questions, okay, to figure out where in Mississauga this person can go. The truth is, once you get their desired property type and budget, you already know, okay, well, we're kind of stuck here, right? Because that fits your description of your budget and property type. But make sure you're not driving around all over the city of Markham and Richmond Hill. So again, some really important questions that you need to ask. Here, you're going to send them a follow-up video, and the video confirms again your time of when you're going to meet. So I will show you this video again on the reverse side of what it looks like when you're sending a video to a buyer confirming time.
John here from Remax Integra. Just send me a little note to remind you of our meeting tomorrow at my office at 71 So 7101 Syntax Drive here in Mississauga. We're meeting at 1 p.m. And I included a link to the map to my office just in the description below in case you need it. Now, do me one favor, just reply, let me know how you like your coffee or tea, because I will have it ready to go for you when you get here. I'll see you tomorrow.
So notice again, I just encourage a reply, right? This way they will reply saying, I like it this way. And if I didn't hear back from them, I'm going to call them back. Or what I'll do is I'll send another video back. And say, listen, I'm looking forward to our meeting again. Didn't get how you like the coffee. I want to make sure I'm bringing the right wine. Are we still good for this time and this time, and how you like the coffee, right? So encourage the reply. So we have a listing presentation binder, right? Have a buyer binder. This is really cool. So again, something I used to coach that you're now getting for free. Have a binder. This page, just so you know, full disclosure, this is the same front page that's in the listing presentation in resources. I didn't create a new one. I just copied this one slide, put the buyer's name. I can change out this photo if I want, that's fine, but I'm just being lazy, leaving it alone. And this is always there that you put in. In your buyer binder, okay, you're going to put all of these things in here. It's very similar to what we talked about before. You're going to get this slide deck, so again, you can recap here, but you're going to have a paragraph on the difference between a deposit and a down payment, because a lot of buyers don't know. They all think that they owe all the money right up front. So understand the difference between a deposit and down payment. Get some information about the home inspection, and here you're going to have some additional information in the binder ready to go. This binder becomes a tangible piece that can now be shown to people. When Fanny's friends come to her and say, you know what, we're looking to buy a house. You're a real estate agent, that John guy. Was he any good? Oh, let me show you what John did for me. Fanny now breaks this out, because here's the thing. Because it becomes part of her first time buying experience, it's a sentimental piece. She's not going to throw this away. I guarantee you she won't throw this away. She's going to keep this. She's going to show it to all her friends. It becomes tangible now. Not just words about John was great. It's look at what John did. Look at everything he included. And whenever we went out to a property, we included the MLS listing here. So whenever I take Fanny out, I print the client version of the MLS, not the agent version, not the broker version, the client version. You know the difference. I 3-hole punch it. And I give it to Fanny. I tell Fanny, bring the binder. So when Fanny brings the binder, we put it in there. What happens when there's a feature sheet? Now, it can't be one of my binders, my books, but most of the people still use feature sheets. I'm not going to take credit for this. One of my students did this. They had, if you see those 3-hole punches, it looks like a ruler. It's thin. It looks like a ruler. He brought it with him. So he took my idea of this, and he said, I have this 3-hole punch, so when there's a feature sheet, we 3-hole punch it right away and put it into binder. I said, that's brilliant. So I'm not going to take credit for that, but yes. Yeah, I don't use the big, I don't use that. That's a problem, because that means you're showing 40 houses, right? But I just use the smaller one, like the 1-inch one. Yeah, the small one that they can carry around, not a huge one. Yeah, and what's really good is, if you can get the one with the slots in the back, where you can just slide like newspapers and stuff like that, then you can put it in there. If you don't have a 3-hole punch or whatever, put it in there. But this becomes something that, again, sets you apart. And whenever Fanny talks about me as a real estate professional, she shows this. Look what John did. This is great, right? Who else does this for buyers? Have any of you done it for a buyer? Yeah, there you go. Yeah? Now, when you meet the buyer, and again, I'm talking about buyers that you haven't met before, so your first time meeting them. What's really important is that you try to meet them beforehand, okay? Because you want to set yourself up as a professional who has worked with buyers in the past, who knows exactly how to make sure that buyer gets the right deal for that, and make sure that they don't get taken, right? They don't spend more than they should, but at the same time, you're not showing 40 properties. Notice in my conversation with Fanny, I kept putting it back onto her, right? It's all about your time, Fanny, right? I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste your time either. You got better things to do than look at 40 properties. So set the tone. So in your package, now you're not going to have this right away. Okay, you won't have this right away. You're going to have this information after Fanny and I have met for the first time. Once Fanny and I have met for the first time and we're going to work together, then I'm going to have this. Okay? But when I meet Fanny for the first time, I will have a 30-second value-added proposition speech, an elevator speech. So I want to meet Fanny at a coffee shop so that we can sit for maybe 5-10 minutes if we can. And my elevator pitch now becomes something more detailed. Okay? If I can't meet her there, and I have to meet her at the house, then I have to be really quick about my elevator speech. Right? So I'm going to ask you guys to, again, go through the who, what, where, when, why, and how format, and have a speech ready for yourself, talking about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? When do you do it? Where do you do it? And how do you do it? Answer those questions. That's your 30-45-second elevator presentation. But when you meet the buyer, of course, bring a buyer package that outlines a few things that we talked about the previous few screens. You're not going to have all of this, but just a few things. And then again, color copy the listing, your business cards. So all of this stuff here is pretty straightforward. Surrounding listings in the neighborhood and what they've sold for. Again, keep that in your head. You don't want to give them everything. Okay? And then when you meet the buyer at the house, okay, like I said before, try and talk to them before you walk in. This whole idea of meeting the buyer beforehand, before you go out, is really important because it sets yourself up as a professional. But again, if you can't meet them beforehand, if you meet them at the physical house, you've got until you open the lockbox to get your elevator speech out. Because once they walk in, they're admiring the Ralph Lauren paint, and they're looking at the illegal Chilean tile. You've lost them. Okay? If you meet them at the condo, then you've got from when you meet them in the foyer, to when you're in the elevator, to when you walk down the hall, so you've got all that time to talk about who you are. Your who, what, where, when, why, now. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself since we just met for the first time. This is what I do, here's how I work, here's what I want to do to make sure you're protected. That's what you're doing when you're walking to the front door. So again, you want to make sure you also find some common ground. Okay? Common ground is great. There's an easy way to do this. I've been teaching this method for way too long, but it's the easiest way for you to learn today. It's called the Ford method. Family, occupation, recreation, desires. The more you can include this in conversation, the more you have of that buyer, the more you can work with them and find them the right property. Okay? So family, occupation, recreation, desires. How many kids do they have? Do they have any at all? Are they married, vacation, singles, hobbies, sports that they play? Okay. This is really important stuff. Keep in mind, this is also important when I teach the CRM course. The more you get about a buyer, the more you can include in your CRM database, which gives you an excuse to contact them. So just a few more slides, but after the showing, this is really, really important. Now keep in mind, this is someone we've met for the first time, or that we're just working with newly. It's really, really important that you stress. You have to be honest, or we need to be honest with each other about the properties we've seen. Because, man, if you don't tell me what you don't like, we're going to keep seeing the same properties, which is a waste of your time. So let's recap the properties we've seen today. What did you like about them? What didn't you like about them? Well, the property was perfect. There was one thing that was a deal breaker, and it's the kitchen. Okay, that was what we call a galley kitchen. From now on, we don't see galley kitchen properties. Okay? That's a good start, Annie. Thank you for that. What else is that is important to you that, again, you either have or you want to be sure we don't have? And again, you're highlighting your professionalism. First impressions, right? So make sure, again, they're honest. If they can't pinpoint it, if Fanny says, you know what, there's something about the property I really don't like, I can't really put my finger on it, then you start introducing things about the property. Well, let's start when we walked in. So, it's first of all a detached home that you want, but when we walked in, was there a problem? Do you want to start at the door or do you want to start at the sidewalk? Was it the landscaping? Okay, no, the landscaping was good. Okay, great. When we walked in, did you like the front area? Start pinpointing. Okay, help her out. Because again, it's all about protecting your time, Fanny. And you're doing this over coffee, right? At a coffee shop, doing a recap of the viewings. Now, the follow-up. Really, really important. Follow-ups, and again, this stat here hasn't changed in the 20-some-odd years I've been teaching. Actually, more than 20 years now. 25 years I've been teaching sales. I've dated myself that way. I'm old. This stat really hasn't changed. Look at the top two. 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. Never follow up with a prospect. Only 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop. But look at where all the sales are made. So the reason why I'm highlighting this is because a lot of us don't like to follow up, which makes me cry. The reason why I don't like to follow up is because you don't know how to follow up. And I'll just make a blanket statement there. I've said 3 words over and over again in this presentation that should be part of your day-to-day. Set the tone. Okay? When you set the tone for a follow-up, you will always follow up. So going back to, I'm just picking on you now, Fanny. Blame Amy, she's gone, so I'm going to pick on you. Fanny, we've seen that property, we've seen 2 properties today. I think it's a good start. What I want to do is I want to send you additional listings and follow up with you tomorrow to see if there's anything you want to see the next day. Does that sound fair to you? So I'm going to follow up with you tomorrow. But it might not be tomorrow, because you might say to me, John, you know what, tomorrow we're going to an event, so it won't be available. Can you follow up with me the next night? I'm like, yeah, perfect. Our conversation will start. But let's say for whatever reason Fanny says, you know what, John, I mean, this was a good taste, but now that I've realized that it's going to cost me $100,000 more to get what I really want, I think I need to put a pin on the viewings. So this was a good start, but it was better for me to know this. Say, great, Fanny, not a problem, I can wait, right? But what I'd like to do, and again, I'm setting the tone for a follow-up, is I'd like to continue sending you some information, whether they be listings or market information, just so you're up to date. Now I can do that once a week or once a month. What would you like me to do? So now I'm setting the tone for follow-up. I'd also like to call you just to make sure that you haven't forgotten about it. So I'd like to call you once every 2 weeks or once a month. What would be best for you? So if she says once a month, because it'll take me a year, I'll say, great, not a problem, but I'll keep in touch with you through social media and through email and through my drip campaign. Okay? But again, set the tone. Set the tone, and here's the other thing. Does that sound fair is my favorite phrase in the world. So I've asked you a few times, does that sound fair, right? What do you do? Say no? Okay? So again, I've asked, does that sound fair? So again, these are ways you can have these conversations so that whenever I follow up with Fanny, I'm not afraid to, because I've set the tone for that monthly or weekly follow-up. Whenever we leave, so let's say we are working together, right? I'll always still set the tone. You sign my BRA, which is fine. Fanny, I'm going to follow up with you in 2 weeks, okay? When you get back from your vacation or whatever. Does that sound fair? Great. So mark it in my CRM. Bang, 2 weeks from now, okay? But again, you've got to make the follow-up. Too many of us are afraid to. So I want to prove to you that this works. So I did this stat using numbers in the East Coast, because I want to prove to you that even East Coast numbers, okay, make sense here. So Jeff Law took 700 dead leads from his office. From his office, they said, we're going to throw these leads away. They're dead. I don't know what they define as dead. I really don't. But Jeff Law said, just give me. So he called out on all 700 and ended up with 57 appointments, which is 8% conversion. Now, 57 new appointments, he didn't get 57 new listings. This is what we call a response rate. Okay? So the response to his calls was 57 new appointments. Now, let's say half now want to sign him up for a contract. Okay? So half of them, so that's 28. So let's say 28 people. But of the 28 people who signed a contract, and keep in mind, they're not all listings. They could be buyers, right? But he's got some sort of a BRA or a listing. Let's say of the 28, only 80% actually closed, because people change their mind. That's 22 deals. 22 deals at $350,000 is 150 and change. So he made 156. I'm not a math person. No, let's say 150. How about 150,000? He made $150,000 with $350,000 as a base price on dead leads. All he did was follow the line. When you talk to your peers who are high performing, they will tell you all day long that they use a CRM tool to mark when they follow up with the people that they had contact with. All day long, they'll tell every one of them, got a CRM, just follow up. That's all they're doing. But look at the stat. 80% of sales are made between the 5th and the 12th. Now, in the 25 years I've been teaching this changes from 6 to 9 or 5 to 10. But look, it's still, you've got to follow up more than 5 times. That's the common denominator. Okay. So, moving on. This just says over 74% of home buyers and sellers surveyed indicated that they would use the same realtor for their next transaction, but only 10% of realtors followed up. So they didn't use the same realtor. And just a quick key takeaways. Okay. Please create your buyer seller packages. be different, buy that machine if you have to. Again, we've discovered on Amazon through one of your peers that you can get it for as low as 70 bucks. I just told you now that if the retail was $190 to $200, I would still buy it because it sets you apart in the presentation package. Not to mention, you can get your money back by creating open house feature books that are bound, which again set you apart. Follow the process of, again, the buyer's presentation, the seller presentation. Please be the expert. Here's the thing. People say you've got to be very confident to succeed in life, right? I don't say you've got to be confident. I say you've got to be comfortable. If you're comfortable with what you're doing in life, that means you're comfortable talking about what you do in life to everybody and anybody at any given time, because you're the expert. Now, if you need to get your car fixed and you went to a mechanic and they didn't know what certain things were or are in the industry, would you still be confident using that mechanic? So when I asked you what MOI is and you didn't know, I probably wouldn't be comfortable using you as a real estate professional, would I? So the idea behind our industry is knowledge, really, because that's all we can prove, right, is our knowledge. So again, be the expert. And when someone asks you a question, whether it's a buying question or selling question, know the answer. However, having said that, I'm going to introduce one thing to you. We can't know everything about this business. There have been many times where I've said to Fanny will ask me a question, Fanny, that's a good question. I actually don't have the answer to that because things have changed. Would you be okay if I followed up with you tonight at 7? Do you want me to call you with the answer or email you? I've said that dozens of times. But don't try and fake your way to an answer because you'll get caught. So if Fanny asks me a good question, and I don't know the answer, I'll say, that's a really good question, Fanny, things have just changed. I don't have the answer for you now, but I'd like to get it for you tonight, so can I call you or email you? I can get it to you tonight at 7. You want me to call you with the answer or email you? That's being professional as well, okay? But again, if someone asks you at a barbecue in your own backyard, so what's the average price of the homes in the neighborhood right now? You don't know? That's a problem. You live there, right? Or if you promote yourself as the expert in the neighborhood, which by the way, Rico has issues with that, you can't advertise that. But if you somehow say or promote yourself as being the expert in that, in C1, and someone says, okay, well, what's the average selling price for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-parking, and you don't know the answer, that's a problem too, right? Because you've marketed yourself in that way. So again, just it says be the expert, but that just says have knowledge. That just really means have knowledge. And please never stop following that. So 12:13, I apologize, I'm 3 minutes late, but that's me. You all know my email address. You've all seen it before. Are we okay with today's content? Yeah? Learn 1 or 2 things. Again, I've asked you already. But do you have any questions? Are we good? You just want to get out and eat, right? All right, so thank you very much.
Thanks,
so
John.
there is an attendance sheet that's floating around. You can all sign it because I will email you this deck.